Hello everybody, how's it going today? Glowplasma 231 here, back in data about Time to Not for Amagami Sister, chapter number 184. This chapter is titled 184th Knot, Tying the Skies Together, Happiness. And this is just like such a nice chapter, especially after the last few where it's been like, oh my gosh, a massive plot twist, and also all these other ideas of like trying to figure out what's happening in this world. Is this actually just Uryu's mind space where he's reliving his entire life so he can make these three sisters happy? Like, what is actually going on here? And if you want the full explanation for all of that, I mean, just go check out last video where I talked about the big twist of this series and how Uryu is practically just reliving his life in a different timeline, not like the main core one that he comes from, but all of that out of the way. This was a very needed chapter, really just focusing on the three sisters, as the three of them are just wishing for not only their happiness, but the happiness of each other. And it's honestly just a really nice chapter. I mean, it's titled Happiness. I was very happy by the time I finished reading this chapter. It's just like a good one, all things considered, right? But before we talk about this chapter, again, 184, let me just briefly mention what happened in chapter number 183. I know I mentioned this like a little bit of a second ago, but like, let me just like do the way I do these series, you know, right? But last time in chapter 184, Uryu was in a Ferris wheel with Yomiko Tsukigami, and the two of them were sitting down and talking about everything that is going on here, like why Uryu has all these prophetic dreams, and really just why this series has come to happen, right? We saw the Fox Mask God also appear in here, and we also got a confirmation last chapter that, wow, the Fox Mask God was who we all thought the Fox Mask God was, and it was none other than Shiharu Amagami. Well, wow, who would have really seen that one coming, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure that was a theory that almost everybody who read this series had an idea was going to be the case. I mean, I think I probably had that theory by the time I finished the first season of the anime, which I think gets up to around like chapter 84 or something around in that scenario. If that's actually the right number, I'm actually pretty proud to know that. Actually, I don't know if I should be proud to know that, but either way, right? We got that whole idea of that entire scenario, and eventually we get to the whole idea where we understand that Uryu is pretty much reliving his life simply because in the original timeline, he tied the knot with one of the Amagami sisters. But of course, that meant that he couldn't make the other two happy. And of course, Uryu's dream, his main goal, is to make all three of them happy at the end of the day, which led Uryu to pretty much restarting over his life in a way and having all these prophetic dreams, which were just memories from his old life and his old past, until we eventually get the whole idea of Uryu is reliving his life so he can make these three sisters happy. And the very end of the chapter was just all of these big reveals and Uryu meeting up the sisters, and oh man, they're going to go out and have some fun at the amusement park. And honestly, I was very happy whenever I opened up this chapter this week. I say this week, I am recording this video whenever like chapter number 192 has come out, so like we're 8 chapters behind. There are 2 more chapters. I think this series is going to be ending in 10 chapters from this chapter right here, so on 194, because that's when volume 22, I think, is the number ends. But I was honestly very happy whenever I opened up this chapter to see that mainly we are not at the amusement park any longer. Was it a little bit of a nice thing to sit there and see Uryu hang out with all of them and just have a good time and do all of that? Yes, it was, but really the main fun part is whenever they're at the shrine just doing all of these various things. And we open up this chapter with Uryu sitting down and all of the sisters are around. They're sitting at their dinner table and they are eating what I guess the K-manga translators really wanted us to know is a Japanese dish called sekihan, which is rice cooked with red azuki beans and is often eaten when celebrating, right? The red color symbolizes happiness. Hey, I get it, like the chapter title is titled Happiness, and oh, hey, honestly, I do like whenever they throw in these translation notes, and I guess this is one of those things that in a typical like manga plus volume, not manga plus volume, that's the Shueisha website, not K-manga, but in the if I can speak, in the K-manga volumes themselves, I mean, I've got a few Amagami Sister volumes on my shelf. At the very end of the books, they normally have a rough translation notes just explaining some of like the cultural differences, or like, hey, these are what the honorifics mean and all of that various stuff. And I'm sure this was something that would have been in the very end of those translation notes right here, but it's also just a little bit of a cool thing to understand, like, hey, these beans mean happiness and how it relates to the chapter at hand. I do think that is a pretty cool thing, all things considered, right? But Uryu is eating all of this, what is it called? Sekihan, yeah. He's eating all of it here in the moment, and of course, like, he's being very silent whenever he's doing it. Like, he looks like he's got an expression like he does not want to eat this food whatsoever, right? And as all this is happening, we see that Aussie looks over just like, is it just me, or does Uryu's expression, like, get much more dour every day? Like, do you guys think he's doing okay, right? And we see that Yahei just pretty much says, like, I mean, his exam results are being posted tomorrow, so, like, I'm sure he's super nervous about all of that stuff right there. And, of course, being the third, Yuna pipes up just saying, like, hey, he told us he wasn't worried at all about his results, so, but he's got to be fretting deep down, like, no matter what. I mean, it's your whole livelihood. Like, how could you not be a little bit concerned, right? And Uryu eventually just says, like, I mean, you're right, Yuna. If it was just a test, I wouldn't be this eaten up at all. And Yuna's like, oh, like, what does it mean then? And I love how Uryu's expression just, like, gets so much more blushed and dire here, as he's just like, I mean, just after I get my exam results tomorrow, like, I would just like to give you all my answer. Like, I just want to make my feelings clear. And I love here in the moment where all of the girls are like just like doing whatever they're doing. Like Yuna is pretty much like sipping on her cup. Assi's getting ready to put a bean into her mouth, and Yahei was getting ready to reach down for a cup to take a drink. And here in the moment, all of them just absolutely stop what they are doing and are just like, wait, like, what is all of this all of a sudden, right? And Yahei's just like, I mean, you almost sound like you're getting ready to, like, ask someone out, right? And Assi's like, are you going to ask someone out? And Uryu just, like, gets all blushed in his face and just, like, gives a little bit of a nod up and down and immediately gets up from the table and just says, like, well, that's all. I look forward to speaking with all of you tomorrow, right? And just exits the room right here in this moment, right? Like, I guess he was done with dinner, or maybe it's one of these things to where, well, actually, we see his plate here on the top of page, what is this, page number 3, I think it is, and we just see that it looks like he's eaten all of his food pretty fast, while all the girls still have some beans in their bowl, beans and rice to Sekihan. It was told to us in the chapter, I may as well remember it, right? But some rice and just whatever their main dish was, and it looks like Uryu has actually cleaned off all of that here in the moment, right? But as all of this happens, Uryu just leaves the room, and all of the girls are just like, like, wait a second, right? And page 4 is just a full page spread where we see just all of the girls just, like, leaning on each other, like, all of their eyes are, like, those mess of, like, a drawn circle, just, like, all squiggly and, like, no definition to them in the slightest, and they're all just, like, fretting, like, oh my gosh, like, oh, did he just say what we thought he did? And I love how, like, all of the speed lines are drawn here on the page, like, to really give us the understanding that, yeah, these girls are freaked out by all of this, right? And presumably a little bit later, sorry about that, my fridge just clicked on, so yeah, I need to find a better place to record, and so yeah, it sort of just happens there, right? But either way, we cut a little bit further into the future in time. We don't know if this is like later that night or just like directly after dinner, but the doors to the room are closed, and we see there's also just a paper on the door that says emergency sisters only meeting in progress, right? Which I guess it sort of matters if Chidori's around, but mainly it just tells Uryu, don't come in here. But I don't think Uryu really wanted to talk to any of you after, like, saying all that, like, tomorrow I'm gonna tell you my feelings and all that various stuff, so okay, that would happen. But as we get into this, it starts off with Yuna being like, I almost thought, like, this day would never come, right? And Yahei's like, yeah, it's too sudden, like, I'm not ready for this at all. And Aussie just is like, hey, but, like, we've all confessed our feelings to him, so we can't just put our hands in the sand and expect things to never change. And, like, plus, whatever we asked him before, we were all too scared to hear his answer. But, like, now it's gonna be time for us to face the music. And we just see all of the girls sort of, like, mildly reacting to all of this. I think this was during the end of, Yuna's second arc, where we learned about all of her past and all of those various things during that festival whenever they really asked Uryu, but, like, all of them didn't actually want to hear what Uryu was going to say. This may have not been when this scene was. I don't exactly remember. Like I said, it's been a few months since I read the series, and then I took, like, 2 months off talking about it, and not talking about a series that long really makes me forget most of what I talk about, right? And eventually Yuna just is like, hey, but is it whatever happens tomorrow, is it really going to determine our future? I mean, if I was the chosen one, could I really bring myself to be okay with that when you two are around? And we see the Aussie and Yae just like give each other a little bit of a stare here in the moment, and I love how Yae immediately just says like, I mean, sure, I mean, I think you're just talking as if you'll be picked here in the moment, and Yuna's like, what do you mean, right? But Yae just is like, hey, it wasn't too long ago that you said yourself that you would have never been chosen to begin with, and Yuna's like, hey, that's not what I meant, like, I just said there's a good chance it'd be you or Asahi as well. But of course, Asahi being how she is, just is like, I don't think that he's gonna pick me. After all, I'm still just a kid, unlike you two. And we just see that Yuna's like, oh, but Asahi, right? As she starts to get up in this moment and leave the room, and she says like, hey, but that won't be true forever. People's feelings do change over time, and it's not like what happens tomorrow will determine our relationships for all time. I'm still not giving up. As we see it, she just exits the room and slams the sliding door shut behind her, leaving just Yae and Yuna sitting in the room, right? As we also just hear she's like, I'm going to bed, good night, slams the door and walks out, right? And Yae just is like, hey, despite what she said, I really don't think it'd be strange for any of us to be chosen. So whatever happens, I'm resigned to it. And Yuna's just like, oh yeah, hey, right. And eventually as you learn a little bit of things like, hey, good night, see you tomorrow, yeah, good night. And we then just get a few panels of all of them laying in the rooms. And I honestly find it funny how much characterization we get from these characters. Like, I know we've gotten plenty throughout this entire series, and like, we're on chapter number 184, but it's still one of these things where like, the way we just see them laying in their beds after reacting to this information, I mean, we see that Asahi is sort of just like laying on her side in her bed, like not under any covers or anything, just like laying on top of it, like hands out to the side, and just sort of like laying there very relaxed almost, it seems. While we see that Yae is like just leaning on her back, like one of her arms is on her stomach and her other one is laying beside of her, just staring up at the ceiling, while Yuna is under the covers and sort of has both her hands up next to her head and is just sleeping on her pillow like a typical person would actively go to sleep, right? Another reason why Yuna is just simply the best in this scenario, right? But as all of this happens, we now go into a few pages where we really just break down what each of the three girls are thinking in these moments, right? As Asahi's just thinking like, hey, I mean, I might still be a child right now, but soon I'll move overseas and I'll set records and I'll mature into a stunning adult. And I just know I'll become a good catch as Yuna or Yae. But if Uryu really does pick someone else to tie a knot with tomorrow, I'm not so sure that I can still be so confident. If I was already an adult, would I be able to calmly accept his choice and celebrate with him and bite my tongue at the same time? As we just see that she's like, maybe it's actually better that I'm just a kid. As we move on to what Yae is thinking, she's just like, hey, all of us love Uryu and we're all great choices, so whatever he picks, it's really out of my hands. And if he picks Yuna, well, she's the one who's actually Amagami by blood, so I'll be okay with it. But the first of us to ask him out was Asahi, so he might want to honor that priority. But what am I doing? All I can think of are excuses for why he won't pick me. And honestly, this is a little bit of an interesting thing from Yahe's perspective, being like, instead of running through all the reasons why I am the pick, just like going through the reasons why I am not it and why I don't have any reason and why he shouldn't pick me. It's honestly a little bit of a sad thing that this is what's going through her mind here in the moment. But honestly, what threw me off the most here was just the whole thing of like, Yuna's the only one who's Amagami by blood. I did not remember this being a plot point in the slightest, so I actually had to go through and do a little bit of research on this, and I did not realize that Nadeshiko's mother, or Yuna's mother, what was her name? I've got it written on my sheet over here, now Kurama. I didn't realize that her and Chiharu Amagami were actually cousins, and that's how Yuna got in the possession. I'm going to say possession in like quotation marks. That's how she was adopted by Chiharu. I didn't realize that, so like she's one who does have the most connection to the shrine. Of course, she was the first one of the siblings to be brought into the whole fray and all of that, but it's still one of those things where I did not pick up on that plot point. It's honestly a little bit of a nice thing to know, and one more reason why Yuna should win here in the moment, right? But either way, we now go on to Yuna's perspective herself, as she thinks like, hey, I wonder how my sisters feel about it. If he picks me, would that really be okay? Maybe we'd all be happier if he didn't marry any of us. But then what would happen to the shrine? I'm scared. No matter which one of us he picks, it might destroy all of our relationships as sisters. As, of course, this is what Yuna's thinking more about the shrine and their familial bond that they have, instead of reasons of I'm a child or I'm making excuses for myself, pretty much, right? But as all of this happens, we see that Yuna just continues to lay in her bed, and eventually, after some time, she almost just, like, sits straight up. She's like, okay, I can't sleep. I need to go out and do something. As we see that she gets out of bed and starts to go and walk around the general shrine area, as, of course, it's night outside, and we just see all of the cherry blossoms around, just blowing in the wind. And it also reminds me of that first color page we saw, or not the first color page, the first double page spread in the first chapter, with that beautiful sight that Naito Marcy is so good at drawing for us. As we just see that Yuna goes outside and just thinks like, God, Mom, I'm lost. I mean, we're all lost. What should we do? As we see that Yuna just starts to run in a direction, as we then hear a few of their footsteps all running in the same area, as we see, of course, all of the sisters are out here and just, like, come and run straight into each other, right? And they're like, gosh, like, ow, that hurt, right? We see they all just simply run into each other, and they all sort of, like, fall into the ground. It's like, oh, like, I'm sorry, I was spacing out back there. Like, hey, but, like, what are the other two of you guys doing out here? Like, that's what I should say, right? And doing all of that various stuff, as we see they eventually just all make it onto a park bench over in the area, or a shrine bench. I don't know what they're particularly called it, a Shinto shrine, right? But either way, you just see that Yuna's like, oh, so like you two are thinking those things too, right? And she's like, man, for him to thrive all three of us beautiful young women into such an anxiety, like, Uryu is truly a very sinful man. They're like, yeah, you're totally right. As Asahi just says like, hey, I mean, don't get me wrong, I still do want to marry him, but it's not a matter of me getting my own happiness, right? And Yahe just says like, hey, I mean, if it means our own relationship souring, I mean, there's really no point to any of this, right? And all of them are like, hey, that's completely right. And Yuna just says like, hey, but on the other hand, if any of us didn't care about that, then we wouldn't be here torturing ourselves about it. Wanting to hold back, a fear of what might happen between us, thinking up justifications for the outcome. The very fact that that's what we are anxious about is proof how much we love and value one another. I suppose that's one way of looking at it, right? As we just get a whole look at, of course, all of their cords, those red cords their mother gave them, all not in their hair currently, and the thing that really binds the three of them as sisters. We just get a little shot of them here in the moment. As I think this is Yahe who just is like, hey, like, I think that's how proof about how all of our destinies are woven together, right? As Yuna just finishes it off saying like, hey, no matter what conclusion waits for us, the bond between us will never unravel. And they're all just like, hey, that does make me feel a whole lot better. And like, hey, why don't we all go and pray tomorrow and get some rest? I'm pretty sure that's Yuna there. And then, of course, Yahe just says like, oh yeah, let's go, right? As we see all of them get over to, of course, the main shrine here in the moment, do their typical double clap to bring the god right there to them. As we just get into the minds of all three of them as they're saying a simple prayer. We see Yuna is saying, may Uryu and I be happy. Asi just says like, hey, may I be bound to Uryu. And Yahe says, hey, may Uryu and I be married. And they all like add on to that. And Yuna goes, may Yahe and Asahi. Asahi is may Yuna and Yahe. And Yahe goes, may Asa and Yuna. May we all be happy. And we end off the chapter on this very moment of all of these girls praying here in a second, just going through their entire thoughts of not only wishing for their happiness along with Uryu's, but for the happiness of the other two here in the moment, and just wanting everybody to be happy at the end of the day. As our final page of this chapter is another single page spread, as we simply just see the three of them all standing there together and praying to the god who is actually just their mother, as we now know, right? And that's where we end this chapter, chapter number 184 of Tying a Knot with the Amagami Sisters. And yeah, or I think it's Tying a Knot, or okay, what is the manga called? Let me pull the volume off of my shelf. Tying a Knot with an Amagami Sister. I guess if it was sisters, we know where this series, how the final conclusion is going to be happening, but either way, I thought this was a extremely good chapter. not only does it have just a nice moment of Uryu finally being like, hey, this is what I intend to do. Of course, I didn't bring this up earlier, but we know how this Tying the Skies Together arc really started was with Uryu about to get all of his exam results and finally heading back to his house to be, or to the shrine to be like, hey guys, this is what my decision is. And of course, we know they're all going to be dressed up in their shrine gear there in the moment, and or their marriage hoods, or I don't particularly know what it's all called, right? But either way, that whole idea of we know where we are getting to, and this is the time right before it, and I really do like how Uryu is not the focus of this chapter in the slightest, and it really just is the three sisters and talking about their familial bond and how that's never going to be broken or changed no matter who they are, and all of them having to actively sit through and realize that, whether or not it's because of what Asi's mental demons are, or Yuna or Yahe's. It's just a very nice thing that eventually they're all able to come through here and figure it out in the moment. And I think it's just a really good way to phrase a chapter and end it off on the note of all of them just sitting together and being like, may we all be happy. Like, it almost brings me to tears just thinking about it and just knowing how this series has gone so far. It's just a really nice moment, and yeah, I honestly can't wait to see where we go next time to see how this chapter goes. And hey, this has been 4 days straight of the series as I'm trying to get caught up before it ends in 2 more publication chapters. Of course, today is the day when the chapters would normally, or not today, I think it's Wednesday when or is it Wednesday or Tuesday? I'm not really sure when weekly Shonen magazine actively comes out with new chapters, because like I know Jump, it's on Monday in Japan, which means that we get it Sunday here in the States. I don't know when Weekly Shonen magazine does all of their stuff. It's harder to come by, simply as, like, hey manga, do better, right? I know I say that every time, but I did really just like the translation of this chapter and all of the things to do with it, right? But hey, if you guys did enjoy this video on Tying Off an Amagami Sister chapter number 184, well, very luckily for you guys, I've been covering this series since chapter number 176, of course, the beginning of the Tying the Skies Together arc, and the end goal here is to be re-caught up and be able to talk about the final chapters on the day of release, or at least be able to talk about the final chapter on the day of release. That is the end goal at the end of the day, right? But with all of that being said, if you did enjoy this video, I've got plenty of others on the YouTube channel. There'll be a playlist link down in the description box of this video, and of course on the end card of this video as well. And if you did enjoy it, I cover plenty other anime and manga related content, not really many other things from Kodansha, mainly are things from Shueisha and that run on Weekly Shonen Jump. But if you are interested in any of that, go to @Glowplasma on YouTube, or just click my character icon down in the bottom right corner of your screen if you're not in full screen, or just go to my channel, and then while you're there, hopefully you would mind subscribing. It's a little bit of a thing you can do that just boosts my ego number a little bit, and also just tells me if you guys are enjoying how the content is being made. And yeah, again, just a great chapter of manga. I'll be back next time to talk about chapter number 185 of Tying It Off. You guys know what I'm saying. I'll catch you guys next time. This will be Glowplasma, signing out.